With President Trump declaring a state of emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border, he now has the authority in order to deploy U.S. troops down along the U.S.-Mexico border. And the White House says they intend to do precisely that. 1,500 troops are slated to head down to the border to join the roughly 2,200 National Guardsmen who are already there, building temporary and permanent barriers along the border with Mexico. And the door is reportedly open for as many as 10,000 soldiers to go. The Department of Defense says they'll also be providing military aircraft to assist with deportations, with plans to fly more than 5,000 illegal immigrants detained in San Diego and El Paso out of the country. This is what the White House had to say.
The American people have been waiting for such a time as this, for our Department of Defense to actually take Homeland Security seriously. This is a #1 priority of the American people, and the president is already delivering.
It is one new promise that the Trump administration is carrying out as quickly as they said they would: an aggressive and more widespread deportation policy that has active duty troops at the border. And their policy is just as important as the messaging behind it, because White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt made sure to say, today, the Trump administration arrested 538 illegal immigrant criminals, including a suspected terrorist, 4 members of the Tren de Aragua gang, and several illegals convicted of sex crimes against minors. The Trump administration also deported hundreds of illegal immigrant criminals via military aircraft. The largest massive deportation operation in history is well underway. Promises made, promises kept. She followed those up by posting pictures of people being loaded into military aircraft with the message, "Deportation flights have begun." President Trump is sending a strong and clear message to the entire world. If you illegally enter the United States of America, you will face severe consequences. So while the press secretary was posting immigration porn for their followers with very little information and context, Aaron Reichlin-Melnick of the American Immigration Council poked some holes in these PR posts. Are these people seriously trying to suggest the deportation flights have not already been going on? They're lying to you. The Biden administration had already ramped up deportations from the border to a higher level than it was under the Trump administration, which is true. I pointed out last year during the campaign that Trump ran a false narrative of the Biden administration being anti-genocidal in Palestine, despite supplying Netanyahu with billions of dollars of military aid to kill tens of thousands of innocent people, including over 10,000 children. They campaigned that Biden is anti-drilling in America, while old Joe angered progressives when he set records by approving a 35% increase of drilling permits from Trump's numbers. And when it comes to the claim that these deportation flights are brand new, the only thing new is the publicity-fueled use of these huge and expensive military airplanes while claiming that they're deporting hundreds of the worst immigrants in the country. No names of the terrorists and drug cartel members, not even a solid number of criminals convicted of sex crimes against minors. Every news report on this references Caroline Leavitt's post, and the White House is the source of their information. So, the plan to effectively make this administration the sole source of our reality might be news that we should also pay attention to. Now, considering the fact that this administration is led by a guy that alters reality and the truth as consistently as he breathes, I tried to look into who these immigrants are that are being deported, and as of now, there's nothing. But while we talk about the military deportations, violations of citizens' rights have already started, with the raid of a seafood store in Newark, New Jersey on Thursday. It was another mass deportation promise that he's kept, including the part where U.S. citizens, including a veteran here, would get detained due to the erratic and thoughtless approach that Border Czar Tom Homan promoted. This is what the Newark mayor's statement said. Today, U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement agents raided a local establishment in the city of Newark, detaining undocumented residents as well as citizens without producing a warrant. One of the detainees is a U.S. military veteran who suffered the indignity of having the legitimacy of his military documentation questioned. This egregious act is in plain violation of the 4th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. And in response, a spokesman for ICE said that it conducted a targeted enforcement operation at a worksite. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement may encounter U.S. citizens while conducting fieldwork and may request identification to establish an individual's identity, as was the case during a targeted enforcement operation at a worksite today in Newark, New Jersey. This is an active investigation, and per ICE policy, we cannot discuss ongoing investigations. In other words, if we consider you to be an illegal immigrant, we can treat you that way, with no regard for your constitutional rights, matching up with the president's fascist declaration a year or two ago that we should suspend the Constitution whenever he sees fit. And supporters will just go along with it because they got images of 8 to 10 people being loaded onto military aircraft with promises of more to come. They don't care about the veteran, whose rights were absolutely violated because it's not them. But there's more, because the store owner, Luis Janota, said 10 or 12 ICE agents entered the retail area after receiving complaints and were looking for documentation. They did not ask for anyone specific. I was confused. They took 3 people who did not have any documentation on them. I asked them what documentation they were looking for, and they said it was a license or a passport. I thought, who walks around with a passport? Janota told Pix 11 News he believes Hispanic workers were targeted when they were asked for their papers by the agents. They did not ask me for documentation from my American workers, Portuguese workers, or white workers. These are some of the ways this militaristic and bullish approach to their deportation program will create constitutional violations. We're relying on the personally biased assumptions made by whichever ICE agent walks into each of these situations. Many won't even consider certain skin tones to be dangerous or potentially in violation of our laws. But they will think a U.S. citizen, like the Puerto Rican veteran they refuse to believe had valid identification, is a violent criminal because of the bigoted propaganda that we've been fed for decades. It's the ICE version of stop and frisk, and they're promising even more of it, while MAGA comfortably thinks that it'll never happen to them.
New order. Securing the southern border and deporting illegal immigrants from this country. President Trump is sending a very strong message to people around this world. If you are thinking about breaking the laws of the United States of America, you will be returned home, you will be arrested, you will be prosecuted. Do not come.